praise. Father, I just stand humbly before you, thanking you for every opportunity and every blessing that you afford us, Lord. Father, I just pray that these plans that are brought to us by these brilliant minds, that we have eyes that see, we have ears that hear, and we have hearts that listen. And Lord, help us find a way to instill you in every inch of our new downtown area. Father, we thank you for the many blessings and many opportunities to be your hands and feet, Lord. Go with us through every day, giving us opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. Father, I thank you for the food we're about to eat. Thank you for the hands that prepared it. I pray that it nourishes our body like your word nourishes our soul. In your sweet name, amen.
Amen. It's very exciting to know that the decisions that have been made will impact for generations. It's very exciting. Okay, the Chamber is a membership organization, and you all know that. We believe business done locally is the best kind of business. Our dedicated members are committed to our business community and the citizens of Midlothian, and we have many, many members who volunteer hours on our committees and just at our events, and we are so thankful for them, for our board members, for our great staff. And we are very thankful for them. And we all work together to represent our city well and just move it forward. We are excited to be able to bring together all of you today for our luncheon. Today's event would not be possible without our sponsors, and I would like to thank them. Our corporate sponsor for today is Waste Connections. Our presenting sponsor, our presenting sponsor is Lineberger, Thorgan, Blair, and Sampson LLP, and we have today Mr. Charles Brady to introduce our speaker.
Here you go.
Thanks very much, everybody, for supporting your chamber and for being here today. Our speaker this afternoon, we've got a few. First is Mr. Clyde Milley. He serves as assistant city manager for the city of Midlothian since July 2018. He's come to Midlothian from Wasatch Independent School District, where he served as the assistant superintendent for facilities. He played a pivotal role in the development and construction of the new high school, which is basically in Midlothian anyway. Prior to that, he was director of planning for the city of Wasatch. He is a 1988 graduate of Wasatch High School, and he's earned his bachelor's degree in science and geography, of all things, from Southwest Texas State in San Marcos. You're not going to move to the Texas State thing?
No.
Okay, Southwest Texas State it is in San Marcos. His master's degree he earned at the University of Texas at Arlington. Clyde is married to his wife, Cassandra, and they have 3 wonderful children. Shane Feenstra is also going to speak with us from Full Circle Design and Development. He's spearheading the Austin District Development along with Canyon Creek Construction. Shane is going to be giving us an overview of the Austin project. I'm sure Clyde will introduce him when it's appropriate. And also Justin Kaufman, our councilman here in Midlothian, is going to give us a brief overview of the downtown development from the perspective of the city council. So I'll turn it over to Clyde. Thank you very much, sir.
Let me get a part of it here really quick. And yeah, it will never be Texas State.
That's right.
I don't know if that makes me old or traditional or what, I don't know what it is. But thank you very much for having me today. Before I get started, I want to thank several people. Lori Lumberg, number one. She put a lot of this together, and I couldn't have done it without her. The council, all the city council, they're very integral to everything we do constantly to this day, as well as the Downtown Master Plan Committee. There's several of you here that were on that committee, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. So with that, let's get started. But before I get to the downtown plan, can anybody tell me what I need to do with this time machine?
Go 88 miles per hour.
That's one of them, yeah. Flux capacity, that's how I get there. There you go. 1980s child right there. So what we're going to start with is an inverted pyramid of granularity. So Lori said, well, where did you find out about that? I said, this is what I live every day. So it really is, what we're going to start with is a comprehensive plan for the city of Waxahachie. And that looks at the city. You're right, I'm a college guy. That threw me off. So I know I'm And then we go down into downtown. So basically, we're coming from a 70,000-foot view down to about a 200-foot view, just to get it's that granularity that each step we take, we get a little more detail. So with the comprehensive plan, we adopted in 2018, and that is on the Planning and Zoning Department webpage. And I believe in your program, there's a QR code, which is the same as this, that leads you to that document. It's lengthy, I think about 180 pages, so anytime you want to conk out at night, it's a good read. You can read the first chapter, that'll do it. But there's several chapters, and it's kind of a guide, a strategic plan for the city council to get us to our development and things like that. But what you do is create a vision. That's a place where people want to live, raise a family, enjoy a comfortable way of life, supported by a community rich in heritage and opportunities for growth. And you can imagine that the past 5 years, at about 5% growth rate, that changes all the time, almost daily. So, since 8 years ago, there's a whole lot of new people that have come in, and their definitions and their thoughts on this change. So, and we hear about that at council meetings, we hear about that at planning and zoning meetings, as well as the downtown. So within that comp plan, we talked about a bunch of different things. But some of the things it touches on in several places is how to deal with the downtown area. And it's the importance of reinvesting in older areas of the city, as well as capitalizing on location advantages. And reinvesting in older areas of the city is just like our homes or our bodies or anything like that. We know we have to constantly keep reinvesting. Even if you have, I live in a home that's about 100 years old, I have to do a lot of reinvestment in that. But even if you live in a home that's 5 years old, you've got to constantly reinvest with that, and if you don't, eventually it'll fall apart. But in typical comprehensive plans, they touch on the downtown area, and land use, community character, and those make sense. But in our comp plan, we hit it at many different angles. So we talk about in transportation, economic and physical health, parks, trails, and environment. All those chapters, we touch on the downtown. It's a thing that we keep coming back to in the comp plan. So, and as goes the downtown, so goes the city. And one of the things we see through this presentation is that the downtown is really the heart of the community. So the comprehensive plan of the downtown is Grove and Lothian's downtown is a pedestrian-oriented, history-filled, family-funded, food-centric urban place, which is the heart of the Lothian. We have some walkable areas on the main block there on 8th. We also have some Heritage Park. We have the old cabin there that celebrates our heritage and history. We have some food establishments that provide entertainment for families and for those type of people for lunch, for evenings, weekends, etc. But the comp plan is clear that the downtown is considered integral to the success of Midlothian. So you have policies within the comp plan, you have actions, and those actions support the policy. So it's almost a roadmap as to how to get to these places. So one of the actions is support the ongoing development of the downtown district as an amenity-rich centerpiece that attracts people and businesses to Midlothian. Also attracts high-density mixed uses in the downtown center. And then one of the policies is grow a retail market for downtown that includes a range of stores such as small startups and bold character restaurants, as well as more downtown festivals, and work more closely with the downtown businesses to help foster new businesses and promote existing businesses. So one of the things that they talk about is enhancing Main Street. And Main Street is, it's not a very pleasant corridor, several years ago, one of the incubator groups in Midlothian said, hey, we'll help fund some of the medians to the west part of Main Street. 4B got involved, and I think they put in 2 or 3 medians there. One of the things that we're working on now is extending that through the downtown. So once you get to the railroad tracks, it gets a little dicey, but that's coming about, and that's moving forward. And then what the comprehensive plan leaves us with is create a downtown master plan. So that's an inverted pyramid of granularity. So we start with the comp plan, and the comp plan kind of ends with saying, hey, you need to get out there and create a downtown master plan. So the council established a committee, and the first advisory committee met on February 9th We had stakeholder interviews and input exercises. We had an online survey with over 12 or 1,100 responses. With that survey, they were able to geographically hit dots where they think areas they liked in downtown. Hey, this is a great location. Hey, this is dangerous across the road here. Hey, this building has sat vacant for too long. Some activity needs to take place here. So it was a really good way not only to get public input, but also see and especially see where a lot of that activity should take place. On March 12, 2020, we had a public open house, and on June 2020, council adopted that plan. So this is kind of the process that we go through on all the plans, public hearings, public input. Then we take it through a P&Z, and then ultimately adopted by the city council. On the public open house, typically what we do with public input is we put a notice in the paper, put it on the webpage, hey, everybody come on, give us your input, go from there. On that public open house, what we did is we sent a postcard to every property that was affected with this downtown plan and said, hey, come in and look and see what we're doing. I want to say it was about 300 properties that we sent those out to. Great response. They all came in. We just kind of updated them on where we were going. You know, the big question is, what are you going to do to my property? I'm not going to do anything to your property, but this is a plan to get us further along. So this is, I think this was that night that we invited everybody in. We had property owners here. We have city council, P&Z, downtown plan advisory committee people, all looking at the products that we have developed over time. So there's also something that we do a charrette, and planning people, they kind of know what a charrette is. Hey, you come in, you sit around, you talk, hey, I like this place here, I want this idea. It's really just to sit around and talk and exchange ideas. And then we held this in a downtown building, and that's the map that you see on the left. We just sat there and talked and communicated and just kind of got to a place. And it really just, it creates seeds, and from those seeds grow ideas. So a charrette's not to be confused with a charcuterie, which basically you just sit around, you stuff your face with wine and cheese. So a charcuterie is not usually developed in this plan. So within that downtown master plan, we also went through a SWOT analysis. So a SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You can't look at just your strengths and opportunities. You got to look at your weaknesses and threats in order to develop a plan to get you out of those weaknesses and threats. As you can see, there are a lot of all of these things. Some of the opportunities were vacant properties easy to develop. Some of the challenges were vacant properties not so easy to develop. The city was not spared in this. Sometimes some of the developers that came in and said, hey, it's difficult for us to work with the city. They're difficult, it takes a lot of time, we're wasting money here. So those are things that we needed to look at, and we've done some changes to that to make it a lot easier for developers to come in and do business and development within the city. So once again, we have a vision for the comp plan. This is the vision that was developed for the downtown. A safe, walkable, and vibrant destination with diverse opportunities for entertainment, socializing, employment, residential living, and culture, enjoyed by locals and visitors alike, and functions once again as the heart of the community. So the purpose of this plan was to provide 20 to 30 years and how it can look like. Something, a plan like this, a comprehensive plan, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 5 years. It's an incremental thing that happens piecemeal by piecemeal. In 30 years, you're going to look up and say, hot dog. I mean, we've done a good job, and we're to the point that we thought we would be at 30 years ago. But it also talks about building forms, streets, public spaces, and branding strategies. So create those branding strategies, the streets, it all creates a special place to visit and congregate. So the first day when we had our first meeting of the downtown master plan, we got there and we got markers. And, you know, when I say, you know, what is downtown to you? You've got one definition. If I look at you, you've got another definition of downtown. So we needed to draw a box and put us in a box, because otherwise the plans would sprawl out from there. So we got markers out, and this was the delineation. Our north boundary was Avenue A, south was Avenue I, west boundary was 6th Street, and the east boundary was 12th Street. So all of these items kind of contained our ideas. This isn't to say that our ideas didn't go outside of these boundaries, but at the same time, it kind of collectively kept us out of the ditches in our discussions. So there's a heart for the heart. So it's red and blue, just to make sure we cover all bases with MISD.
It's not green.
And, I'm sorry?
It's not green.
You're right, I learned. One thing I did is learn. So, but some of our goals is to encourage mixed-use development, commercial, retail, residential, nurture local entrepreneurship, and grow the economy in the downtown, foster a people-first philosophy, create thoughtful connections to green spaces and parks, and preserve the authenticity of place that will attract others to the experience of the Lothian's unique charm. Those are very telling words, is the authenticity of place. You don't get that on 67, you don't necessarily get that on 287, you get that in downtowns. You get that in places that have soul, that have been around for hundreds of years. It's just that authenticity of place, and maybe in 100 years, 287, 67 will have that. I'm not sure, I can't answer that question, but I know, and the downtown master plan speaks to the authenticity of place that is had in downtown New Lothian. So it talks about vibrant public spaces, that people want more entertainment opportunities downtown, family friendly, where the kids can interact, collaborate, and enjoy socializing with locals and visitors. More retail, food and beverage, entertainment, and craftsmanship in downtown. The community understands the need for integrated and nearby residential to encourage and support this growth. It's interesting, the craftsmanship word there, and I'll tell you how that came about. And I don't know how many people in here grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in the 80s. I'm going to date myself again. But there was an old guy that came in, he had a ponytail, a cowboy hat on. He said, you know, there used to be this place up in Dallas. And where are we going with this one? So that doesn't limit much. But he's like, yeah, there's this place, I think it was called Ola. And I was like, oh gosh, it is a bad memory. Because I was 12 years old, my parents would drag me there. There's not a worse place as a 12-year-old to go than Ola Padrilla in Dallas. It was I don't know, y'all that have been there, just kind of a craftsman store. They had candles. I blocked it out of my mind. Really. I mean, you just, but a lot of people remember it. I mean, if you ever went there, you remember it. So it's just a lot of artisans, a lot of crafts and things like that. And I don't know how long they lasted, 10 years maybe. It's long enough. But that's where that craftsmanship came from. And it talked about breweries, it talked about these small businesses and entrepreneurship. So not necessarily the Kroger's or the Walmart's going downtown, which we know that that's not really compatible, but they want that craftsmanship. And then also a central hub. So on the left is Burleson, not Texas, but Burleson. And they've done a real good job. That's their city hall in the background. Their city hall is really a nondescript building. I mean, it's a little more descriptive than our city hall. It's nondescript, but they've gone in, they put out AstroTurf, they put in a permanent stage, and they've got chess pieces, they've got ping pong tables out here. So really making it a cultural hub, and that's a destination center for Midlothian where locals and visitors to experience and embrace the city's history. And really, I mean, we're 65 square miles, we're a big city. So where are the people that live off of McAlpin that come for the weekend? What about the people off of Walnut Grove? Hopefully they're going to come to the downtown where we have culture. And really the cultural hub is really, and I'll touch on this in a little bit, the cultural hub has really come about through the bond proposition and the City Hall and library. So it's really becoming, with the City Hall and Library project, it truly is becoming a cultural hub in the downtown area. And then walkability and safety. You've heard me touch on this quite a bit, is walkability and safety. So the pedestrian-oriented part of the downtown is very important. But it talks about all the other recurring things are bolstered by a bold desire for safe and enhanced walkability. So downtown should be a place where people feel safe and excited to get out of their car and explore. And we're not talking about necessarily stranger danger or something like that, but we're talking about how does my 87-year-old father-in-law get out and walk across the street to the restaurant while feeling safe? Where can, my 3-year-old get out and go run and play, and I don't fear for them running out into the street or something. It's a built environment in a way that cars go a lot slower, things are a lot just calmer, and we hear traffic calming quite a bit. But all this comes into that walkability and safety. So with that, the downtown master plan, we have several catalyst projects, and I want to say there's about 15 probably catalyst projects, and these are, hey, this is something, a priority that we need to do. And one of the priorities was a downtown, new town square, and that's in downtown Midlothian. And in 2021, we had a bond committee that got together, and the downtown City Hall Library was just one of the propositions, a $25 million proposition. There was also the police department, the rec center, as well as a lot of roads. But this is one of the primary catalysts for the downtown. And as you see, another project in there was the Lawson Building. And I'll tell you, and I might jump ahead a little bit, this isn't the Citizens Bond Plan Group, but let me tell you a little bit about the Lawson District Development Group. So in that downtown master planning exercise, one thing we heard constantly is that green building, that green building, that green building. And, you know, we've heard forever that, he's not gonna sell, he's not interested, not gonna sell. So, start a conversation with him, and he didn't wanna do email, he didn't wanna do voicemail, he didn't wanna do anything. He wanted to talk and listen. And the mayor entertained him, and he talked, and he listened, and we talked and we listened, and we talked and we listened. And, you know, nobody got impatient or anything, and I think it was a really neat transaction. Because he's a great man, Mr. Lawson, a really neat man, and he's got, in the recesses of his mind, he's got history of Midlothian that I never knew existed. But, I mean, it is just in this day and age where everything's online, calls, voicemails, and things like that. We're going through property transactions right now that you get 20 voicemails by the time this lunch is over. It was really neat just to go and sit down and have a conversation with Mr. Lawson. And that's how it happened. I don't think many transactions happen like that anymore. But what had been done in several decades, we got accomplished by the help of the mayor and the rest of the county, is we bought the two Lawson buildings. So one's the green building, and then across the street from that, across 7th is the brick building. So the green building's about, I think it's right at 30,000, the other's about 15,000 square feet. So the catalyst project is to activate those, get those going. So, sorry, that's an aside. But, so the Citizens Bond Plan Group formed in March of 2020, and we had 17 residents. We kind of put it on hiatus there in the summer of 2020, but we got going back in the fall. Numerous times, the committee met to discuss community needs, financial data, growth projections, traffic reports, all the meetings broken to the public, of course, and then we recommended a $125.5 million bond proposal. And those were 4 proposals I spoke of earlier. And I'll focus on something in a little bit, but it's I think the city hall and the library, I think it said earlier, is about over 57% approval rating for that project, which is tremendous. Just that we have the support of the citizens, and that's what's so neat about the downtown plan and where we're going with all this stuff is we feel like there's a groundswell of support. The council supporting it, the planning and zoning commission supporting it, you have the downtown master plan advisory committee supporting it, the citizens planning group, and all these meetings are open to the public, and we seek public input all the time. And just on the design of the library and what people want to see, how do you program the library? You know, we've shared the library with the Meadows Library since 80s. Yeah, since the 80s. Not a perfect situation. And, you know, it worked in the 80s, it might have worked in the 90s, I think it probably stopped working around 99 or 2000, something like that. But we've kept up with it. And it's worked out well. I don't mean to say that it hasn't benefited our community. But at the same time, as the community needs their own library, the school needs their own library. They saw things. So that goes back to it being a cultural hub. Not only are we going to have us old Dodgers down there working downtown, but we're going to have little kids coming in for story talks. We're going to have all ages of families and things. And last night, one of the council people talked with the 4A. They want to see activity down there from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Then we really want to activate the downtown. Well, at 8 a.m., I bet you're going to have a couple of moms there, dads there with their kids entering into the library. I know when my kids were young, my wife would come home with books, and she'd have to keep the receipt from checking out because she would check out 40 to 60 books at a time. And it was just you know, it was a man, we just didn't find a book in 3 weeks, so, one was a good day. So we've had several community library, city hall, focus groups meetings, and really, what they've come up with is a preliminary design for city hall. And nobody's seen this yet, so this is kind of the first design of city hall. So, this is it, and, we're going to get started on this within 12 minutes or so. Now, this is a building in Boston or somewhere up in Massachusetts. It's one of those wacko architects we did not hire. So, that's not going to be anything like it. But we decided to go with this. So, we kind of like the Disney-esque opera house or symphony house or whatever in LA. But that's not it either. They barely started on schematic design. We've gone through the programming aspect of the library, we've gone through the programming aspect of City Hall, and while we're doing all this, we're also designing a public safety building down at the end of the 67 at the end of the road. So, but really, those are fictitious. Anybody who took pictures of these, please put it back. So, with the downtown master plan, there's action plans within there, and they kind of give us, okay, these are things, this is who can help you out, it increases walkability, it increases health, it has to do with parks, heritage, and then conceptual budget, and then when we should start hitting those time frames on that. So, like I talked about earlier, this is a 20-year project. Well, a lot of the projects in here are 7 to 10 beyond years. So, I'm gonna kick it off to Shane here in a second, because he has a lot to do with the loss of development. But the council was really sharp in determining, hey, okay, we've got the loss of buildings, I think we got control of those last November maybe, and they wanted to get them out, and get them in, they wanted somebody in real quick. But then they stopped for a second and said, wait, we got a bond coming out in May. So let's wait until the bond happens in downtown, and just to see what happens with the city hall and library. Because we think that if the city hall and library happens, there's gonna be more interest in the loss of buildings. And sure enough, when that bond caps down there, we put the RFP out, I think within a week or 2 weeks, and we got 10 responses. And some of them, one was a roller skating rink, and some of them, we got a lot of responses. Some of them was not. But when you're in development, you're gonna see this time and time again. Private money follows public money. That is one of the safest bets as a private developer, is you follow the public money. If the city's willing to invest $25 million in a location, a geographic location, it's very wise for a developer to come next. And the council was very smart in saying, let's hold off, let's wait, let's see what we get. And what we did is, like I said, we got 10 responses, it came down to 3, we interviewed 3, and of those, Lawson Development picked up the Lawson District, the Lawson building. And this is kind of a rendering of what they planned to do. This is that green building that has sat there for at least 2 decades. Opening it up, at least one restaurant, one brewery in there. I don't want to still say some other things. And then, this is kind of a rendering of what the downtown is going to be. The city hall will not look like that as much as it will not look like those other buildings. But really, what you see here is activity, and not just from 8 to 5, not just at lunchtime. This is activity. I say 24/7. It won't be 24/7, but from 8 in the morning until 10 at night. We want to see people down here. We want to see, and there's nothing more safe than a lot of people around. That provides safety, that provides security. Enlarging possibly a park, having a splash pad down here. Enhancing Main Street with lights. Here's Lawson over here. So there's a lot of, and this is just a rendering, but it also includes a lot more residential areas down here. So you need people, when they live close, they interact and they enjoy those areas. They just start living there. And, I've got a daughter that lives in Austin, and some people say, God, she lives in Austin. She travels less than I do. She lives up in Crestview area. I don't know if y'all know where Crestview is. Her job's 7 minutes away. Her bubble is about 7 minutes radius. She doesn't live there. And where I live probably within a 7-minute bubble. I drive over here. But other than that, a lot of the activity takes place closer to home. And we know that the more people that live downtown, and we have something called a UDPD, Urban Village Plan Development. A lot of people are going that way, and they're converting homes, they're converting secondary dwelling units, things like that, in this general area. So with that, Shane, I'll introduce Shane Feaster, and I will be around for questions and everything. Somebody told me earlier that one of the main things about public speaking is lead people more inquisitive, and I just said it just depends on how inquisitive the people are. So I will be around for questions, and Shane, here you go.
I'm going to flip back to this rendering real quick. So thank you, Clyde, and thank you, Chamber, for allowing us to introduce the Lawson Development District project today. I'm just going to give a quick overview. We are planning some future meetings on site that will go into a little bit more detail, present floor plans and whatnot. But today I'll just give a quick overview. My name is Shane Feaster. I'm with Full Circle Design and Development. We're a local Midlothian company, and we're partnering with Canyon Creek Construction. Again, most of y'all probably know Jesse Crocker and another local company. And so we partnered together to bring this new project to downtown, and we're extremely excited about it. Extremely excited about what it's going to do to the area. So we're purchasing both Lawson buildings. One's at 301 West Main, which is the big green one here, and the one across the street, which is 211 West Main. And we're breaking it out into two phases. So phase one is going to be the redevelopment of 7th Street right here. And we really felt like to comply with the comprehensive plan and to really bring life into this area, we wanted to completely redo 7th. As most of y'all know right now, it's 80-foot wide stretch of just bare concrete. And so we really wanted to downsize the street, make it more pedestrian friendly, more walkable. Several different ways we're doing that. We're relocating the parking to the center, creating landscape median, landscape islands, decorative lighting up and down 7th from Main to Avenue F, festoon lighting crossing the street, putting in wider sidewalks on both sides of the street, just making it pedestrian friendly and walkable, putting in big planters. So that's the basics of what we're doing to 7th. The other part of phase one is the redevelopment of the 301 or the green building. And we're going to keep the existing structure. We wanted to honor the Lawson buildings and not tear it down and build something new. We wanted to reuse what's there and just enhance it, modernize it. So we're adding a central tower to break up the architecture and make it more interesting, putting new finishes on it. We're also, on the interior portion, we're adding a second floor. So we're not raising the building, we're just adding a second floor inside of the existing structure. On that second floor, we're adding windows facing 7th, also along Avenue F on the backside, and turning those into residential loft apartments. They'll range from about 430 square feet up. And then we're also adding some Airbnb hotel rooms up there. So when friends and family are coming to visit, they'll have a nice, unique place to stay in downtown, walkable to restaurants and bars, retail shopping. On the first floor, here, we're adding in new retail storefronts. We actually have two anchor tenants. The largest one is a brewery that's coming in down here. And there'll be manufacturing on the back side of the brewery. On the front side will be a restaurant bar with an outdoor patio. And that's going to be located on the far end of the building near 7th and Avenue F. On the front side, in Main, here, Main 7th, we're adding in about a 2,500 square foot restaurant with an outdoor patio as well. So both ends of the building will be activated on Main and Avenue F with restaurant, brewery on the other side, outdoor seating, to really give that activation throughout the entire block. The infill along the storefronts will be all retail. And the retail spaces will range from about 630 square feet up. So we're going to market it to small, local, boutique type retailers. And then also, if you need a larger space, we can accommodate that as well. And that'll kind of flank on all major streets, Main, 7th Avenue F. On the interior portion of the building, we're installing incubator spaces, which will be small, about 300 square feet offices. So an individual who needs an office, but not a lot of space, can rent one of these, one or two person kind of offices. We're also equipping a conference room with soft seating lounge, coffee bar, that the incubator spaces will have access to, so you can still have clients come in and do client presentations, etc. And then the back side of the building are going to be studio spaces. And they can be larger office spaces, but we're really going to market it more towards maker spaces. And if you're not familiar with the maker space, it'll be like an artist studio. So if I'm an artist, I need a studio space and a gallery, I can actually be making the art there, displaying it for sale. Hatters, photographer studios, clothing designers, things like that will go into those studio spaces. In phase 2, so that kind of wraps up an overview of the green building. And again, we have plans in production, and we're going to hold an on-site meeting at some point in the future, which we can distribute that day later, to really kind of go into more detail and show plans and things like that. And then phase 2 is going to be the 211 building across the street. So that's kind of a brief overview. We're very excited about the project and what it's going to bring to downtown, what it's going to contribute to the comprehensive plan. The new library at town City Hall is going on the property across from Avenue F. So this is really going to be a connector from Main Street over to the new City Hall and library. We're very excited about it. Releasing information, which will be coming out soon. I'll go through the chamber or whatever to distribute that. But Amber Steamster, who's sitting here, is going to be the listing agent for the property. So she'll be the one kind of running and person you get contact for leasing and sales information and all that. So anyway, we're very excited and thank you for the opportunity to come kind of present the overview of what we have planned. So I guess I'll turn it over to Justin Kaufman, one of our city council.
Thank you all for that very energetic welcome. I'm here at my church after I preach about sin. I know I'm honored to give some remarks on behalf of the council, and honestly, I feel sort of unqualified to be the one to do this, but we have so many qualified council members that are here and more than capable of speaking. I think they asked me because clearly I'm the best looking one. Unless Clark's here. Is Clark here? No. Okay, yes, I'm just joking. You guys are beautiful. So I don't have any fancy slides or any sort of inverted pyramids of granularity to show you. Something that Clyde did say sort of stuck out to me. And he said, as goes the downtown, so goes the city. And I believe that that's very true. Does anybody have that old song stuck in your head about Celia Clark? Downtown. But no, that song speaks to the excitement being around downtown, being a destination point. And I believe that is the vision for our downtown, and that's what I believe the council is pushing toward and wanting for that to be that sort of cultural hub that both of the gentlemen before me spoke about. And that takes intentionality. That takes really recognizing what goes into developing that. My observation is that as cities grow on their bypasses and on their corridors, downtowns typically tend to suffer unless the city is very intentional about keeping downtown alive, which I believe our city is. So kudos to the council, to the staff, to all those involved in being intentional about keeping downtown as being a vibrant heartbeat of our community and of our city. had the opportunity last week to read to a bunch of third graders. And of course, they asked me what we do, and what we don't do as a city council. And man, they had some really cool questions, and they really sharp kids. The future is bright for Midlothian. So after I got done reading, they asked me some interesting questions, and after I got done making some really unrealistic campaign promises to these children, they asked me a few things. The first one was, they said, "Why don't you bring Disney World to Midlothian?" I said, "That's a valid question. But our mayor is terrified of mice, so y'all go talk to him." And that was a joke, Richard. I just kidding. I was not afraid of mice. But sorry about that. Then they asked me this. This was my favorite question. They said, "What is your favorite part of town?" And I said, I could have given the politically correct answer and said, all of them are great, but truly, I think the heartbeat of Midlothian is downtown. And we have to, like I said before, be very intentional about it. From the excitement, I shared passionately for maybe 5 minutes about the excitement surrounding Founders Road to the Lawson District and the entire area of downtown, and the changes that are coming, and the development that's being birthed, and the city hall and what that could potentially look like, and the green spaces that we have downtown. And then the same kid that asked me the question raised his hand and he interrupted me. And he said, "No, I asked what's your favorite park in town." No interest in downtown whatsoever. I don't know what my favorite slide was. So I said, of course, I love Midlothian Community Park. But anyway, on behalf of the City Council and Mayor Reno, I just want to thank you all for being engaged and excited about downtown. I want to encourage you to shop local. It's very important because those sales tax dollars can stay here to help fund these things to make our town even that much greater. So with that, I'll turn it over to Melissa, and I appreciate your time and for giving me the microphone. And that was the shortest sermon I've ever given.
So thank you for being patient with us and squeezing in